Round-robin scheduling algorithm. Round-robin scheduling algorithm is similar to FCFS policy with added preemption to switch between the processes. First come, first serve, FCFS policy dictates that CPU will be allocated to that process which has arrived first in the ready queue. And this process will release the CPU voluntarily. We cannot take the CPU back from this process before its completion or before it releases the CPU voluntarily. However, in round robin, FCFS policy has been used with preemption. Original FCFS algorithm is non-preemptive algorithm, but round robin is FCFS with preemptive version. And preemption means that CPU can be taken from the currently running process based on some condition. And why we will take the CPU back from the currently running process? In order to switch between the processes. This means so that we could allocate the CPU to the next process in the ready queue. Round-robin scheduling is especially designed for time-sharing systems. A time-sharing system, a multitasking system, is a system in which multiple applications or processes may run concurrently, and system can be shared by many users. How this is achieved? How multiple processes can execute concurrently in the system? This is achieved by switching processor between multiple processes so frequently and in a fast manner that every process or every user has the illusion that CPU is being used either by that particular process or by that particular user. So the basic idea is switching the system between different processes in a fast manner, in an efficient manner. A small unit of time called time quantum, a time slice, is defined for preemption. That is, time quantum, a time slice. This is the condition for preemption. This is the condition based on which we will take the CPU back from currently running process. CPU is allocated to each process for a time interval of up to one time quantum. Time quantum, a time slice, has variable size in different systems. However, in all of these systems, CPU is allocated to the processes in the ready queue for one time quantum. That is, in one go, every process will use the CPU for one time quantum. And then in the second go, again, the processes will use the CPU for one time quantum. And this process will keep on until the processes complete their execution. After the expiry of time quantum, CPU is switched to the next process. So what happens that when a time quantum expires, CPU is taken back from this currently running process and it will be given to the next process in the ready queue. In round robin scheduling, ready queue is implemented as a FIFO, just like We have seen in case of FCFS, FCFS implements the ready queue using FIFO, first in, first out queue. That is, the process which has arrived first in the queue will be processed first. And new processes are added to the tail of the queue. This is the behavior of a FIFO queue, that processes will be selected from the head of the queue and new processes will be added to the tail of the queue. Scheduler picks a process from the head of the queue, sets timer to interrupt after one time quantum, and allocates CPU to this process. So how this scheduling algorithm works? That scheduler will select a process from the head of the queue. Why it will select a process from the head of the queue? Because it is ready queue is a FIFO queue. So the process which is at the head of the queue, that will be selected for execution. And for how long this process will execute? This process will execute for one time quantum. So a timer is used to measure the time quantum. And when the time goes off for this particular process, timer will generate an interrupt. So there are two possibilities. Once CPU has been allocated to a particular process, the first possibility is the selected process which will now execute on the CPU. It has the burst length which is less than the time quantum. And the second possibility is that the selected process that will execute on the CPU, it has burst length greater than the time quantum. What is the burst length? Burst length is the time that this process needs to complete its execution. This is the execution time for this process that it will take to finish its execution. So under the first case, when the burst length is less than time quantum, what will happen? Process will finish its execution within the time quantum because its burst length, its execution time is smaller as compared to the time quantum. So before the expiry of the time quantum, process will complete its execution. And after this, it will release the CPU voluntarily. That is, we will not take the CPU back from this process forcefully because process has already completed its execution and it will release the CPU voluntarily. And because CPU is free now, so scheduler will pick the next process from the ready queue. And the process will be selected from the head of the queue. As far as second case is concerned, when the process has burst length greater than time quantum, what will happen? At the expiry of time quantum, that is, timer will go off. The time for this process will go off before this process complete its execution. Because its burst length is greater than the time quantum. So it will not complete its execution in one time quantum. And time quantum is going to expire. It will expire. Definitely it will expire. So at the expiry of time quantum, timer will cause an interrupt to the operating system. Timer device will generate an interrupt. And we know that whenever an interrupt occurs, what will happen? A context switch will occur. And what happens when a context switch occurs? CPU is preempted. That is, currently running process will be removed from the CPU. Its state will be saved. Its PCB will be saved back in the ready queue, at the tail of the ready queue. And CPU will process the timer interrupt. And after processing the timer interrupt, scheduler will pick the next process from the queue head. Let's take an example to explain the process, scheduling process in round robin. Suppose there are three processes in this system, process P1, P2, and P3, and these processes have arrived in this order at time 0. We also suppose that time quantum is 4 milliseconds in this system. This Gantt chart explains the schedule of these processes using round robin. At time 0, there are three processes in the ready queue. The process P1 is at the head of the queue and process P3 is at the tail of the queue. So P1 will be selected for execution and it will execute for one time quantum. However, the burst time of the process P1 is greater than the time quantum. So what will happen? Process P1 will not complete its execution and timer will expire at 4 milliseconds. And when timer will expire, a context switch will occur. P1 will be stored back in the ready queue at the tail of the ready queue. And scheduler will select the next process from the queue. The next process is P2. So P2 will be selected for execution. Now P2 will start executing at time 4. And P2 will complete its execution before the expiry of the time quantum because the burst time of P2 is less than the time quantum. So before the expiry of time quantum, P2 will complete its execution and scheduler will select the next process from the ready queue. The next process is P3. So P3 will be selected and it will start executing. Again, P3 will complete its execution before the expiry of the time quantum because the burst time of P3 is also less than the time quantum. So at the end of its execution, P3 will release the CPU voluntarily and scheduler will select the next process from the ready queue. The next process is P1. This is the only process in the ready queue now because P2 and P3 has already completed its execution and P1 was put back in the ready queue when it was first allocated the CPU. So P1 will start executing at time 10. And again, at time 14, time quantum will expire because the burst length of P1 is 20 milliseconds. Second time, when P1 was selected for execution at time 10, at this time, the burst length of the P1 was 20 milliseconds. Why it was 20 milliseconds? Because it has already completed 4 milliseconds of its burst time when it was first selected for execution at time 0. So the remaining burst time for P1 is 20 milliseconds. And because the burst time of P1 is greater than the time quantum, so at time 14, time quantum will expire, a context switch will occur, and P1 will put back in the ready queue, and CPU will select the next process from the ready queue. So again, P1 will be selected because this is the only process in the ready queue. So at time 14, P1 is again selected for execution. It will execute and time quantum will expire after 4 milliseconds. That is at time 18, again time quantum will expire before process P1 completes its execution. What will happen? A context switch will occur. P1 will be stored back in the ready queue. Timer interrupt will be processed and then P1 will be selected for execution again. And it executes till time 22 then again time quantum expires. And this process keeps on until the P1 completes its execution at time 30. So we can see that if the burst time of a process is greater than the time quantum, then what happens? CPU is taken back from this process, a context switch occurs, and next process is selected from the queue for execution on the CPU. So this is how the CPU is switched between different processes, between multiple processes. This table gives us the completion time, turnaround time, and waiting time for each of these processes. We can obtain the completion time by looking at the Gantt chart. For process P1, it completed its execution at time 30. Process P2 completed its execution at time 7, and process P3 completed its execution at time 10. Turnaround time can be calculated by subtracting the arrival time from completion time for every process. Because all of these processes were arrived at time 0, so completion time and turnaround time for all these processes will be same. We can calculate the waiting time by subtracting the burst time of respective processes from its turnaround time. So waiting time is turnaround time minus burst time of that process. So in this way, we can calculate the waiting time. The performance of round-robin algorithm. Round-robin performance is dependent upon the quantum size. If time quantum is large, then it behaves as FCFS algorithm. This means if time quantum is large, it is large enough, then it is larger than the burst length of the processes in the ready queue, then what will happen? Processes will complete their execution before the expiry of time quantum, and the ready queue will behave exactly like the first come first serve queue. So all the processes, they will complete their execution before the expiry of the time quantum, and round robin will behave just like first come first serve algorithm. However, if the time quantum is too small, then what will happen? Lot of context switches will occur. And the context switch, processing of context switch is a pure overhead. What is a context switch? Context switch means saving the state of currently running process and reloading the state of another process. This time that is utilized to save the state of currently running process and reloading the state of another process. This time is known as context switch time or context switch overhead. This is the time in which CPU is not running user processes. Rather, it is processing the context switch. So it is not a useful word from the user perspective. So this time is the pure overhead. Let's take an example to explain the performance of round robin using different quantum sizes. We assume that we have a process in the system. There is only one process in the system, and this process has burst length of 10 milliseconds. In the first case, we assume that quantum size is 12 milliseconds. Because the process burst length is less than the quantum size, so process will complete its execution before the expiry of the time quantum. So in first case, zero context switch will occur because process has completed its execution before the expiry of time quantum. In second case, we have assumed the quantum size is 6 milliseconds. So what will happen? That when the process will run for 6 milliseconds, then a context switch will occur because process burst length is greater than the quantum size. So at 6 times 6, a context switch will occur. And because this is the only process in the system, so again, this process will be selected for the execution on the CPU. In the third case, the quantum size has been further decreased. It is now 1 millisecond. What will happen? After every millisecond, a context switch will occur. The running process will be moved back to the ready queue. Context switch will be processed, and this process will be again selected for the execution because this is the only process in the ready queue. However, CPU has to process the context switches every time when the time quantum expires after 1 millisecond. So we can see that in this case, there are 9 context switches that CPU has to process, and this is a pure overhead. Due to this reason, context switch time should be less than the quantum length. On a typical system, the time quantum is 10 to 100 milliseconds. That time quantum size may range from 10 millisecond to 100 millisecond on a modern day system. And because context switch time should be a fraction of the time quantum, so on a modern day system, context switch takes less than 10 microseconds for processing. It is just a fraction of the time quantum.